We're going through the series of the 30 critical questions that every kid needs to be able to answer for themselves in order to build a meaningful life. And within that broader construct, there are three distinct pillars: identity, purpose, and belonging. A sense of who you are, know who you're not. That's identity. Purpose, have a sense of your strengths, your talents, the kinds of problems you want to solve in this world, and a clear, confident belief that tomorrow is going to be better than today because I have a part to play in making it so. And then finally, relationships, belonging, I think by far the most important part. And that's what we're digging into in this episode, specifically this question: how do you come across to others? That's a development need, actually. Every single kid needs. We need to be guided to discover this concept of social awareness. I remember a moment I can distinctly remember where I was in the backseat of a car, hanging out with a group of friends in high school, junior or senior year. And I know who the kid was up front. I'm in the backseat. He's in the passenger seat. And I'm doing what I do at that point, which is being funny by being critical of others. And I was funny, but I was also critical. And at some point, he, mild-mannered, calm, one of the kind of nerdiest kids in school, turns around, which is not easy to do in a car. Turns around, looks me in the eyes, and he says with a lot of intensity, "Why are you always so critical of others?" And then he turns around. And I just was like, shocked, dumbfounded. And I probably said some joke to him, probably complained, criticized him. But what he said sunk deep, particularly the insight that I didn't know that I was coming across that way. I thought that my behavior, the way I talked, was perceived and received as funny. And instead, it was deeply bothering him. And it made me question my values, maybe question who I am. And ultimately, that moment shifted how I've communicated ever since. I was not aware of how I came across to others. Social awareness is one of the core building blocks of emotional intelligence. You probably heard of this guy, Daniel Goleman. I've got a book around here somewhere by him, a couple. Emotional intelligence wasn't always a concept or a phrase that people understood. In fact, traditionally, people thought of intelligence as book smarts, IQ. And he was the one to really do a massive study and then popularize this concept of emotional intelligence. And he defined it as the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your emotions, and to recognize and understand it and influence the emotions of others. So there's kind of one part a self-awareness, another part a social awareness, which is exactly that. It's the ability to understand how you're affecting the people around you. Your tone, your body language, your energy, your timing, your facial expressions, and certainly the choice of words that you use, how it lands with others. There's another guy named Howard Gardner who developed this concept of multiple intelligences. Put it this way: interpersonal intelligence, that's what he called it. Interpersonal intelligence is the ability to notice and make distinctions among other individuals, their moods, their temperaments, their motivations, and intentions. In other words, it's not just about being book smart, it's about knowing how you show up to other people. If your kid doesn't learn this, they will struggle. Not because they're bad, not because they're don't have value, but because they're blind. They're blind to the impact that they have. They might talk too much without realizing they're dominating. They might miss sarcasm or ignore social cues. They might come off as rude or aloof when they're really just kind of unsure or anxious. And over time, they might get labeled, misunderstood, left out. They'll be confused, disoriented, or maybe they'll start to believe that something's wrong with them. Social awareness is critical. For any way you slice it, professionally, personally, we need to guide our kids to develop social awareness, the capacity for it. It doesn't come naturally to every kid, especially kids with neurodivergence, ADHD, autism, kids who struggle with anxiety. They might find it especially challenging. Social awareness is a development process related to our executive functioning, which takes a while for our brains to develop. It is a process. It's not a workshop that you develop or go through. I remember one of my kids going to their open house in middle school, and there was a poster on a wall of empathy And I came home and asked my son about that. And he goes, yeah. And he memorized, he like robotically gave me the definition, the exact definition that was on that poster, because the teacher had required them to do that. They'd say it out loud together every day. That's not how you develop emotional intelligence, by memorizing things. You develop it by interaction, by guidance, by us giving feedback and also modeling. Even if your kid is neurodivergent, doesn't mean they can't develop the skill. It just means they need more intentional support, and they definitely don't need shame. That does not help. That reroutes the process. So kids who build social awareness grow up with stronger friendships, leadership potential, confidence in social settings. They're typically better at collaborating, more resilient in social settings. They're less affected by missteps, miscues, because they're able to read the room. They can adjust to the vibe, to the environment without losing themselves. They can cross cultures more effectively, and they can connect with people without getting in their own way. Most importantly, they're trusted because people then will receive them and feel seen and heard and respected by them. They'll feel safe. So how do you do it? This is we're going to bring it home. How do you develop social awareness in a kid? Number one, you ask reflective questions. Questions like, how do you think you come across to others? What are you known for? How do your friends describe you? What's your role in a group of friends? What are you learning about yourself from how people respond to you? You can ask them opening questions. It doesn't mean they will answer. That's not actually, most of the time they won't. The point is to plant the seed implicitly by asking the question. And then when it's appropriate, gently point out, not with shame, not intensity. Instead of saying, hey, you were really rude right there. That's not how we treat people. You might try this. I noticed when you said that, your friend got really quiet. Why do you think they got quiet? What do you think was going on for them? I noticed when you didn't answer a question when your grandma was over, she asked a question and you gave a one-word answer. I noticed that the tone was off. Like something felt. I wonder how grandma felt. So putting yourselves in their shoes. That's first. Second, or third, actually, model it yourself. Say things like, I think I came across as too harsh. I need to check in with them. Model your own growth of social awareness. Tell stories about the time that, like me, you realized you were off. You were miscued with other people. And then, of course, we want to make it safe for our kids to think through and talk through social situations, reflect on how they're coming across, make that normal. Your kid's future is shaped by their emotional intelligence. And critical to emotional intelligence is their social awareness. They might become lonely, misunderstood, stuck in conflict. They might hurt people's feelings and not understand it, not know how to repair. But if they do develop social awareness, they'll become someone that other people trust, respect, include, and maybe even want to follow. So ask them this week, how do you think you come across to others? Share some stories about moments where you've grown in your own understanding of your social awareness, and give them opportunities to practice. And what a asset to give them. It's when you're around someone that has true social awareness, they're just delightful people. And that's what we want for our kids.